African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon everybody, and welcome to this your own very special live safari. I'll welcome the three schools when we come back to you. This, everyone, is Safari Live.
Ready.
Standing by.
Five, four, three, two, one. You are live, you are live.
A very, very special welcome to Henry B. Birkeland Elementary School, Trantwood and Kempsville Meadows Elementary School, 7 to 9 years old, watching us here. I guess you must be in grade 3 or grade 2 or perhaps both. My name is James Hendry, and it's lovely to have you with us here on Safari. We're going to be trying to find as many things as we can around here, and you can ask us any questions you like through your teachers. You just ask them a question, they will send a question through to us, and we'll do our best to answer that question. At the moment, we have got so many animals here, I don't even know where to look. We're just going to quickly look at them all, and then I'm going to move to look at the elephants. You've seen the elephants coming down to drink. Over there, we've got some Nyala. That's those little antelope that you can see there, and they're with some impala, and we're going to swing all the way around to the right-hand side now and show you just behind, hiding behind a little tree over there, is a giraffe. Can you believe that? And as I sneak slowly, look at him, he's hiding from you all, he's quite shy. And as I sneak slowly forward, I'm going to show you some zebra, and then we're going to go quickly down to look at the elephants. There, look at the zebra, those big stripy bottoms you can see walking away from us. Wonderful. Now let's move down and have a look at these magnificent elephants. Just going to try and get us into the best possible position. I think this will be a good one here. There we go. Look how many there are. They're all having a drink today. And that's because it's quite a nice warm day. It's probably round about, I'd say, 78 degrees Fahrenheit or so. Maybe as high as 80 degrees Fahrenheit today. Which, remember, we're in the early parts of winter. So we don't have a cold winter at all down here. We're in South Africa, of course. And that, of course, is in the southern parts of Africa. So it is, I'm just getting confirmation there, 78 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 26 degrees Celsius, which is what just about everybody except in America uses to measure the temperature. What a beautiful herd of elephants this is. And the little ones might think about lying down in the mud. They love to play in the mud, just like young people like to play in the mud. Well, I used to like to play in the mud. I'm not sure if you guys do. Maybe in the summertime. Isn't that sweet? They're all drinking water, and they've been eating all day long. Elephants like this have to spend a huge amount of time trying to find enough food to make themselves full, because they are huge. The really big ones will weigh more than 14,000 pounds or 6,000 kilograms. And the little ones, you know how big they are when they're born? They're born 220 pounds. Can you believe that? 100 kilograms, that's what they weigh when they're born. Now most of you will never get to that. Even Charlie, you wanted to know how much they weigh, so there you go. And you will, very few of you will ever get as heavy as 220 pounds or 100 kilograms. If you do, you will be a pretty big person. And there's some of them now, you can see there. Oh dear, one of them seems to be making a poop in his own water, which is not an ideal situation. But there are more and more of them coming down here to drink, and the little one there you can see almost having a bit of a swim. That water will be nice and cool on their skin. They'll really enjoy the feeling, and that's a young bull that you can see right in the front there. And the young bulls, well, you know, some of the boys in your class and the girls actually, when you get to about 12 or 13 years, you're going to want to spend a bit more time away from your families. And that's what that guy's doing, because they feel very confident, they want some independence. And then look, now they're starting to have a lovely swim. And Mario, you want to know if the elephants can see us? Yes, they can definitely see us. But they're not afraid of us, and we're not afraid of them because we see them often, and so they know that we are not to be afraid of. They know that they don't have anything to fear from us. What I'm going to try and do is just move slightly so that we can get a slightly better angle on those ones there. We're going to drive just round the corner here, which will be very nice. And then after we've finished with the elephants, we'll go and have a look for those zebra and the giraffe and all the other wonderful creatures that we've got around here. You know, we don't always start off a safari like this. Sometimes we don't see anything for a long time. But today, we're very, very lucky. I'm just going to drive around the corner into a little gap here. And although they can see us, and although I say that they are not threatened by us, we must have extreme respect for them. We need to respect them very much. And we do that by keeping our distance, by watching how we affect them. It's just like when somebody, or when you make somebody uncomfortable, or when you feel uncomfortable, you say, go away to them. An elephant does that, but not with words. They do that with their body language. We'll just stop here now. That's a beautiful picture there. How's that, Ferg? Now, Lulu, you want to know how tall they are. The answer is much taller than me. It depends, really, on how old they are. The big ones, so that big cow at the far left-hand side there, she probably at her shoulder, that's actually a bull, but he probably stands at his shoulder about 10 feet tall. So a big bull about 10 feet, sometimes even more than that. But the little ones, not so much. I mean, when they're born, they probably stand about 2.5 to 3 feet at the shoulder, maybe 3 feet. Look at them having a wonderful swimming time there. Isn't that fun? And Kyle, look at them playing there. They're playing dunk. Kyle, you want to know how much they drink every day. Well, Kyle, they drink quite a lot, you know. They drink roughly 100 litres a day for a 10-year-old cow. So a very big bull, which weighs 14,000 pounds, is going to eat a lot more than that. He's probably going to drink a lot more than that. He's probably going to drink up to 200 litres a day, which in pints, well, I mean, I can't work that out in pints, really. But I can work it out in gallons, actually. So it's 10 times 4, 400 gallons or so. That's a lot, hey? 100 litres, 400 gallons? No, I'm talking rubbish. Hang on, I'll work it out for you in gallons. Divide by 5, multiply by 4. 20 gallons. 20 gallons of water for a 10-year-old cow. Yeah, Harper, you ask a very good question, and it's a good question because, of course, we are people, and we know that as people, we can be very damaging to the environment. And you say to us here, do the elephants have any enemies? And the answer is absolutely they do, and their main enemy is man. We are their worst enemies. But luckily, out here, they're not harmed by us at all. They're very safe, and so we don't worry about that too much here. Out here, I suppose their only real enemies would be something like lions. But it would have to be an enormous pride of lions to hurt elephants like this. And maybe a very small elephant could be attacked by a hyena, but again, that would be very unusual. This is just wonderful. Look at them having a best time. Taylor, you want to know what girl elephants are called? Well, the same as girl cattle, the same as girl whales even, the same as girl crocodiles. They're called cows. Girl elephants are called cows, and boy elephants are called bulls. Isn't this fun? We don't see this every day, everyone. This is very special to watch them swim like this. Justin, you say, do they play games? They do play games, Justin, but those games that they play are very different from the games you might play in the pool. You might play that funny game I used to play called Marco Polo, for example, or hide and seek, or that sort of thing. And they don't play games like that, but they do play with each other, and this is a game that's going on here. This is not serious behavior, and just about all mammals and some birds engage in what we call playing behavior. So you know you guys like to play, and you also know that you like to play a lot more than, say, your parents do. And that's totally normal, and that's exactly like these elephants. They too like to play a lot more than the older ones do. And we think there are a number of reasons for that, and I know some of you are studying adaptations at the moment. We think that play behavior is an adaptation that helps to sort out what we call the social hierarchy. So it tells us who's the boss eventually, and who's going to be the boss, and who isn't going to be a boss, and who's going to have a lot of friends and who isn't going to have a lot of friends, that sort of thing. And it also helps us to develop our muscles. And we know, especially in human society, because we spend a lot of time indoors on our bottoms, doing a lot of things like writing and sometimes playing on computers and watching TV, our muscles don't develop quite as well as they used to. And so this play behavior that we engage in is just as important as it is for the elephants. That's why the elephants are doing it, is to make their muscles strong so that they can grow up healthily. This is very special, everyone. We don't always have time like this with elephants. And that one that you're looking at there, or the one you were looking at, sorry. Let's carry on. That one there, I think, is found, and it might be his mum, actually. And they're throwing mud all over themselves. And look here, you're wondering what they do with their trunks. Well, at the moment, they are throwing mud on themselves. You can see they love to throw mud on themselves with their trunks. It makes them feel happy. I think it looks like a lot of fun. But also, ooh, look at this. Also, they do things like drink through their trunks. They make a noise through their trunks. They make a sort of trumpeting sound through their trunks. They use their trunks to break leaves and branches and grass. So they use them to feed or to eat. A trunk is the most important part of an elephant. Oh, they're just having the best time. And I think, can you see that cow who just shook her head there at them? I think she's saying, come on, kids, it's time to get out the water now. And I don't think they care. They just want to play. They're having the best time. Karine, you ask a very interesting question about why elephants flap their ears. Now, I mean, elephants flap their ears for a number of reasons, Karine. And at the moment, they're flapping their ears just for fun. They're in the water, they're flapping their ears, it's what they do. It's like you splashing around in the water when you're having fun, or perhaps even in the bath. And that's what's going on here. But their ears are actually very important to help them keep cool. And what happens is that a lot of blood is pumped through those ears. All of the blood in the elephant's body will be pumped through the ears in about 20 minutes. And because they flap those ears, that blood gets nice and cool, and then it goes into the brain, which is a very important part of the elephant. And an elephant must have a cool brain, otherwise the body doesn't work quite as well. And you know, if you get hot, if any of us get hot, the most important part of our bodies to keep cool is our brains. And that's why an elephant flaps its ears. I hope that's clear to you. If it's a little bit unclear, just let me know and I'll explain it again. Look at this, they're having such fun. It's so nice to see elephants having fun. They've been spending, as I said to you, they've spent the whole day eating and doing as they're told, not too much playing while their mum and dad are eating or while their mothers and aunts are eating. And now suddenly they've come to the water in the afternoon and they can have a nice play. And eventually, the leader of the herd, will be the biggest and oldest cow, she's going to shout at them and she's going to say, "Get out, we're leaving, come on." And then they'll all have to get out and move. Because they don't want to make their matriarch, that's what we call her, she's the oldest, most senior female, we don't want to make her upset. Alright, well, as they leave here, everybody, we are going to hand you over to my friend Brent, who, if you can believe it, is sitting 2,500 miles from where I'm sitting right now. He's up in East Africa in the Masai Mara, and he's got possibly the most terrifying animal in all of Africa.
On camera, and it looks like I'm holding a selfie stick. So I know I have two cameras pointing at me. This is not a selfie stick, it is an umbrella for our camera. And luckily for Zander, he's next to the camera, so he gets protected by the umbrella. Now, if we have a look here, there's a crocodile on the side of the river, and I know you guys are studying habitats. Now, here is an animal that's ideally suited to the African river aquatic habitat. Now, but that's not really a crocodile. That's a bit small. What do you think, Zander?
Yeah.
I think that's a baby crocodile. Next to us is a real big male crocodile. There he is. Look at that. Isn't he a beast? He looks like a big L to me, like Al Capone. Now, of course, they are the ultimate aquatic ambush predator. And big crocodiles like that particular one, watch my hand, will not move for most of his life. Once he's big enough, he'll control a section of river like this. Now, the reason this section of river is very important is because it is a crossing point for the great migration of wildebeest, zebra, and Thompson's gazelle. So the bigger and stronger you are, the better territory you can control. And in the Mara River, the best territory is one where all the animals like to swim across the river. And this is one of the bigger crossing points. This morning, apparently, 30 or 40 zebras swam across here. But it doesn't look like they caught any. I can't see any dead zebras in the water at the moment. But of course, there's lots of different things that have an aquatic life. Oh, that one just popped under the water. And you get them there, just beyond the edge of the trees, where there's some ripples. Or you can just see a little nose coming up. Come on, show yourself. Stop being so shy. But there are some hippos. Now, hippos live in the aquatic habitat for a completely different reason. Now, they don't actually feed in the aquatic habitat. They leave the water every night to go eat grass. Oh, the croc's moving, the croc's moving. There's that big croc. I don't know if he's seen something or he's just finished being out on the bank and he's going to go back into the depths to lie in wait for some poor unsuspecting zebra or wildebeest. Now you can see how he completely disappears, and you can see how his tail moves in the water. Now, he's probably just done with his sunbathing, since it's got a bit cold now, and the sun has disappeared behind one cloud, and we've got a bit of rain. Now Gage is wondering, am I scared? No, I'm not, Gage. I'm quite far away from him, and I'd only ever really be in danger if I was walking along the edge of the water. Now you've always got to be extra careful with any river system in Africa. Because if you think there's no crocodile, that's the crocodile that's going to bite you. Maybe he has seen something. Where's baby? Maybe there's another crocodile he wants to chase away. Well, Ben.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our sunset safari. My name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got Craig, and a special warm welcome to the schools that have joined us this afternoon. So Henry B. Birkland, Kempsville Meadows, and I've forgotten the last one's name. I'm sorry about that. Lou, can you remind me who the last school is that's joined us? It is my fault, I have forgotten. But it's because I'm very excited, because we have an elephant bull who is busy feeding off a whole bunch of torchwood fruits. Now you can see there, he's underneath the tree, and we've been watching him push the tree and shake it. And as he's been shaking the tree, so fruits are falling out of the tree, and birds are being thrown out of their nests, and he's having a real good time of it. And you can see he's very, very dark because he's been swimming. So he's been spending time in the water, and now he's out and is feeding along on the fruits that are around, which is great for him because he's able then to get all the nutrients of these delicious fruits. Well, delicious if you're an elephant. If you're a human, not so delicious. They're not very tasty for us as people. They really don't taste very good at all. Now remember, you can send through your questions through your teacher, or if you are watching and you want to send through questions, you can use hashtag Safari Live later. So, Djuma, you want to know how strong is an elephant? Well, an elephant is very, very strong. They can push over really large trees. So the tree that it's standing under at the moment is not really big. It's a bit big for them to be able to push over at this stage, but you'll find that they'll even be able to move that whole tree. So, I mean, you can see that elephant is probably standing, I would say, at easily 10 feet, and so it really is a big animal, and that tree is very, very large, and it can move that whole tree. So they are really, really strong, and if they wanted to, they could easily pick up our car and roll it around. So elephants you have to be a bit careful of because they are very strong, but it means that they can get food that everybody else can't get to because they're able to push these trees and shake all the fruit loose, and no other animal would be able to reach up there, not even the giraffe, and so they can get food when nobody else can. So, Will, you're wondering what they use their tusks for? Well, their tusks are used for two things. One is to be able to feed, so they'll use that tusk to help break off bits of bark and trees and branches and foods like that. And the other thing that they use it for is to defend themselves. So if they're a male and they're attacking one another, then they can use it to try and push the other male and to try and keep that male at bay. But if it's a predator like a lion, they can use their tusks to chase that lion away. So that's why they have tusks. And you'll find on the male, like this one, his tusks are much thicker than on the females. The females tend to have very, very thin, narrow tusks, whereas these guys have very, very big ones. And this is not even a big tusked elephant. We get elephants in some parts of Africa that have tusks that are over 100 pounds each tusk. So you can imagine how big that is. They'll be really, really big and almost be touching the ground. So the males have massive tusks. That's how you can sometimes tell if it's a boy or a girl, just by looking at the tusks and seeing how big and thick they are. Now his tusks are looking absolutely splendid because he's been swimming, so they've been washed clean and they don't have any dirt or dust on them, and that's why they're so bright and white. It's like when you brush your teeth. It's the same thing for this elephant. Well, Owen, you're wondering how long an elephant's trunk is. Well, it depends on the elephant. If it's a baby elephant, a mommy elephant, or a daddy elephant. A big male like this, his trunk is probably easily 7 feet at maybe even longer, actually, probably closer to 8 feet. So I'm not actually sure what the record length is for a trunk, but I know that they are around 7 to 8 feet on the males, so quite long. It's much taller than what I am, and that trunk will weigh close to 300 pounds alone, which is really, really incredible. And you can see they use their trunk for lots of different things. Look at how he's sniffing and looking for the fruits. So now that the fruits have fallen everywhere, some of them have fallen in the cracks, and they're trying to find it, and so he uses his very good sense of smell and those two little fingers on the end of his trunk to be able to pick up the fruits and then put them in his mouth. Very, very clever. Right, now we're going to watch our Ellie and see how many of these fruits he can actually eat. And while we do that, I believe Jamie is out on bushwalk and she's got a little baby tree to show all of you.
We do indeed, and a little baby tree that is very much connected with those elephants that you've seen with both Tristan and with James a bit earlier. This little tree is a baby marula tree, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that in just a few moments. But first, I'd better introduce myself, and then we can go back to talking about our tiny, tiny little plant that's growing up in a very unfortunate place in the middle of the road. My name is Jamie, and this afternoon, Sebastian, with dirt falling off his hat, is on camera with me, and we're out on foot on a live bushwalk. And a very special welcome to all of the schools joining us this afternoon. One of the reasons that we love being out on foot is because we have opportunities to look at little things like this. Oh, there we go. This is the tiny baby tree. This is a tiny, tiny baby marula tree. And one day when it's big, I'm going to show you exactly what it's going to grow up to be. Well, not this one actually, because this one's in the middle of the road. But this is what this tree grows up to be. One day, when it's big, it's going to be like this massive tree over here. That's a marula tree, and it's a very important tree that grows out here. And it's fed upon by lots of different creatures, including those elephants that you saw earlier with Tristan and with James. One of the things that elephants will often do is they'll come and they'll, especially in winter, pull the bark off the marula tree and eat great big chunks of it, and that sometimes kills the big old marula trees. They'll also pull branches off and everything like that. But nature has a way of making up for that. So around about February, so we're past that time of year, but around about February, marula trees produce a really delicious, delicious fruit. And even us as human beings, we absolutely love it. And the elephants especially, because it's full of sugar and it's full of delicious things that they love to eat. So the elephants will eat it. And I'm running away, but I'm coming back again. The elephants will eat it. No, I'm not running away from anything. Never run anywhere. The elephants eat the fruit, and inside the fruit is the seed that contains all of the material for the next generation of marula trees. So even though elephants sometimes kill marula trees, even though they feed off marula trees, they eat the fruit, and then they deposit a big pile of dung once they're finished eating the fruit. And I'm sure you're all going, but that's kind of gross. She's touching elephant poo. That's okay. I'm going to wash my hands straight afterwards. But it's important that you never, ever, ever touch any animal's poo without being told by an adult that it's okay. So you saw with Tristan, the elephants, oh no, the elephants eating those seeds earlier. There's another one of those seeds in the elephant's dung. So what you can see is that elephants don't fully digest the seeds, but what they do is they provide the perfect place for those seeds to grow. So you see how everything works out in a balance. Elephants eat marulas, but they also help young marula trees to grow. And I think that's very special. Our elephants will eat seeds and leaves and plants and trees. Let's go over to something that really only eats grass.
There we have, everybody, what is sometimes known as a pajama donkey, but that's only by very rude people who would call it a pajama donkey. It's not a pajama donkey, it is a zebra. It is a plains zebra, and it is standing in the... It's not sitting at all, it's standing in the shade, because it's quite hot today. And you can see it's got the most clever tail. Sometimes I wish I had a tail like that when I live out here, because there are so many flies. And that tail that zebra's got is used to swat the flies. It's really very clever. Now this is a young male zebra. In other words, it's a stallion. Remember we spoke about bulls and cows when we talked about the elephants? Well, this is a stallion. That means it's a male. And I want to ask you a question. This time you're going to answer me a question. Oh, there's another one. I think that's probably also a young male. Can you see that strange sort of gap there in the striping on the side of the zebra? Can you see that, everybody? Focus, can you see it? Can you see that? That's right in the middle of your picture. It looks like that somebody has drawn a line through the stripes. Now, I want you to tell me what you think happened there, and then I'm going to tell you what I think happened. So you're going to tell your teacher very quickly in the next 2 seconds. You have to shout out what did that to the zebra, and then I'll explain it to you. See him swatting away at the flies as he dozes. Horses and zebras are very clever. They can sleep while they're standing up. Sometimes I feel like I want to sleep when I'm standing up, but it's very difficult. Now, Kevin, you want to know how big zebras get. Well, this is a young male zebra, so he will get quite big. And when they are at their top mass, mass is the same as saying weight. When they're at their top weight, they'll be just over 300 kilograms, which is about 660 pounds. So they'll be pretty big. And then they stand at the shoulder. Well, it just depends on where they are, but around this area where they're pretty big, they'll stand at roughly 1.3 meters, which is about 4 feet, basically. They'll stand about 4 feet at the shoulder. Just over 4 feet. Is that right? Yes, it is. Now, Garrett, zebras have stripes, obviously, and you say, why do they have stripes? There are so many different ideas, Garrett, as to why a zebra have stripes. I think a lot of them are complete rubbish. I think the best explanation for why a zebra has stripes is that it helps them to stay hidden from predators that are colorblind. Now, if you imagine that the green that you can see in that picture was also black and white, imagine that, then I think you can see how if that zebra was walking past those bushes, which were pretty much the same color as it, well, it might be quite difficult to see. So I think it helps them to stop being eaten by other predators. Otherwise, I really can't see a reason. Some people say it's sort of, it's to keep them cool. The black stripes get hotter than the white stripes, but you'll learn about the chemistry or physics of how that happens much later on in your lives. I think for now, or you can accept that the stripes are there in order to help them not be eaten by their predators, which are largely lions. Anybody have any answers for me yet as to what happened to that zebra there? No answers. I'm so sad. Elijah, you say, why does zebras' manes stick up? Maybe you know about horses, Elijah, and you know that horses' manes, of course, lie down, unless you do what we call hog them, which is to cut them very short, and then they'll stand up just like the zebras. Zebras, unlike their horse cousins, store a lot of fat in the neck there. So you can see the neck, on the top of the neck, there's a whole lot of fat there, and that fat makes the mane stick up. And so you can tell how if a zebra is healthy or not by how its mane is standing up. If its mane is not standing up, you know that the fat that it's got in its neck is being used by the body to survive, and that normally means that there is not quite enough to eat. All right, I don't think anyone's going to give me an answer, so I'm going to tell you. If you look at that little spot there, can you see it, Fergus? If you look at that spot there, I think you'll find that a lion, yes, that's what I said, a lion grabbed the zebra when it was young. And I think that its claw cut open a big cut there, and that's why those two stripes don't line up anymore. And so there was a big slice in this poor zebra when it was a youngster, but now that's completely healed, and although there is no gap in the skin, you can see there that there was a big, what we call trauma, when it was very young. So it was a lucky escape from a lion, I think, this chap. He is fast asleep. His friend in the background, not so much. Now, you won't believe it, but as I showed you earlier on, just a little tip of the head, we're going to go down the road and we're going to look at that amazing giraffe over there. Now, John, I'm going to make the sound of zebras, and everybody in all your classes is going to do the same thing. Okay, everybody, I'm going to do it for you once, and then I'm going to count to 3, and you're all going to do the same thing. All right? This is what a zebra sounds like. It goes, wah, 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 wah. Okay. Now, on the count of 3, everybody in the classroom is going to do the same thing. Teachers, block your ears. 1, 2, 3. Wah, 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 wah. And that's really what they sound like. They don't sound like anything like horses at all. They also go, but don't do that in your classroom. You might spit on your friends. There, in front of us, is a very special animal which makes almost no sound at all. And that is a giraffe. Let me just go a little bit closer. And before we talk about the giraffe, I mustn't ignore the other animals that are with the giraffe. They are called impala, and they are our most common antelope out here. There we go. Isn't that nice? Gosh, we've had a really lucky afternoon so far. With all these animals, all these spectacular creatures that we have out here. And I get to spend just about every single day with all these beautiful animals. And it makes me feel very lucky indeed. And it also has a very nice fly swatter. You can see that on the back of its tail. It's a brilliant fly swatter for hitting away the flies and the ticks that come to sit on it and suck its blood. Nobody wants a creature on their bodies that is sucking the blood. Do they, Fergus?
No.
No, they don't. And now you may as well ask as well, of course, why it is that a giraffe should have patches like that on its skin. And again, I'm not sure that anybody truly knows the answer to that question. I suppose a little bit like the zebras, it might help them to hide a little bit in the bushes from the lions that might want to eat them. But this giraffe, you know, is probably, how many meters tall is it? And then I'll have to work it out in feet. Just give me 1 second. The females are normally about 3.5 meters, which, if we multiply it by 3.25, gets us to 10.5, plus a little bit, say about 12 feet. About 12 feet, 11 to 12 feet tall. So they're really tall. And Dina, you wanted to know how tall they are. Well, there you go. 11 to 12 feet for a cow. And for the bulls, they're even taller. They're about 3 feet taller than that. I'll tell you exactly. I'm just going to check my notes here. Sawyer, you want to know why the flies fly around them so much? I'm assuming you're not asking why they don't walk around them, but why there are so many flies there. Well, I think that you'll find that there are so many flies because there's lots for the flies to eat. So there's the giraffe will sweat and they will get dirty and they will produce, they'll also have blood vessels close to the surface of the skin that the flies will bite and suck the blood out of. So it just helps them to... It helps, the flies find a lot to eat on all of these animals in the same way that they do with horses. I don't know if you've ever been around a horse or around a dirty dog. You'll find flies around those animals as well. But also, remember, a lot of the wild animals out here will have little nicks and scratches. Quite often they'll be injured, not seriously, but they'll have little scratches from the thorns and they'll have little wounds from walking through the thick bush. And the flies then like to come and eat the blood out of those holes and things. You might just be able to hear the elephants calling there. Dalton, I don't know how, somebody's obviously told you this, but you say, why are their tongues purple? Can you see a purple tongue there? But you're right, Dalton, they are purple. And I think the best explanation I've ever heard for why their tongues are purple, because you're absolutely right, Dalton, is they're purple, but only the bits of them that they stick out of the mouth. And the best explanation I've heard is that, of course, a purple or dark tongue won't burn in the sun. And if you watch carefully, you can see that their tongues spend a lot of time out of the mouth. And we think maybe that's why they're purple on the end. Now, I'm just going to tell you that big male giraffe actually can get up to 5.2 meters, which is extremely tall. That is over 16 feet. So that's 16 or 17 feet. And some females can get as tall as 14 feet or so. So, I mean, they can get quite a lot taller than I said they could. Jordan, you want to know if giraffes have got any enemies? Well, an animal that big, remember, they weigh in. The males weigh, the biggest males weigh just over a ton. So about 2.5 or 2,200 pounds, and a female like that weighs about, let's say 1,800 pounds, 1,800 pounds or so. You can be sure that there are very few animals that would be able to take on a giraffe, but one of them is the lion. The African lion is definitely a predator of the giraffe, and also very large groups of hyenas. Very large groups of hyenas will definitely take giraffe if they can. Now, my friend Tristan, who is the biggest member of our team, has managed to find the biggest animal we get out here.
Well, I'm not sure if I'm the biggest member of the team anymore. With Brent Leo Smith, he's had a dodgy hip and has put on a little bit of weight recently, so I think Brent is much taller than I am, and maybe a little heavier these days. But as you can see, our elephant was just shaking the tree, and all the fruits were falling down, so he's very clever in the way that he does things. Unfortunately, he's losing some to the dam that we have here. There's a few ripples of where fruit has landed in the dam, but it's so clever to be able to shake the tree like that and actually get the fruit that he needs, because he's not tall enough to be able to reach inside there and actually get the fruits from the top of the tree itself. So he just uses his brute force to push it around and get what he needs. And then you can see how delicately he feeds. Look at how he uses his trunk, and you can see he's got two tiny little points on that trunk that are helping him find what he needs, and then he uses his sense of smell to be able to actually find them. So he's not actually looking for those fruits, he's using his sense of smell, and when there's a stick in the way, you just throw it out the way. So let's see, there we go. Look how he's smelling. Isn't that amazing? That's very cool. So Megan, there goes one of the fruits. Oh no, he lost it. Let's see if he gets it. Oh, there we go, he found it. And you're wondering why elephants are so slow. Well, elephants aren't as slow as you think, Megan. If elephants had to run, they will run faster than what we would, and even faster than what Usain Bolt would run at. So he's the fastest man in the world, and an elephant can move faster than that. They can do almost 40 kilometers an hour when they're running at full speed. So that's in about 26, 27 miles per hour. So they can run very, very fast. Now, the reason why they don't run as fast as something like a lion or a leopard or a cheetah is because they don't have to chase other animals. Their food is vegetation, so it's plants, it's grasses, it's trees, and those don't move. So that means that they can just walk along and get all the nutrients they need without having to run very fast at all. So that's why they don't run very, very quickly. Now, I thought I heard some other elephants coming, but they doesn't seem to have arrived yet, but maybe they will just now. Dante, you're wondering if elephants are smart. Well, elephants are probably one of the smartest creatures we have out here. They reckon that they're just as smart as dolphins, if not more so, and probably smarter than I am, because earlier I forgot one of the names of the school, so I do apologize, Trantwood. I'm glad that you are with us, and I apologize that I forgot your name. But elephants are very, very clever. They're able to work out all kinds of things, and their intelligence is shown just by what we saw here, where he actually knows how to shake a tree to get the food that he needs. That behavior is not something that he would have seen from his mom very often, because his mom doesn't have the strength to be able to push a tree like this. It's only because he's a big male and he's heavy that he's learned how to do that. So they're able to work things out and problem solve. You'll find that elephants also, if they go towards, let's say, a camp where people are, they'll learn very, very quickly where they can and can't go, and they'll know to avoid certain areas. And I've seen when people put up electric fences around a camp to try and keep the elephants out of the camp, the elephants will walk along and they use their trunk, and they can actually pick up all the electrical wavelengths in that electric fence. And as soon as they get to a point where they see that it's not really doing very well, or there's a short in the fence, they'll then push through it, or they'll get to a place where they find a tree very close, and then they push the tree on top of the fence, and then they can break the fence and walk through. So they are very intelligent animals, and probably the most intelligent of the animals that we have here in the African bush. Now, you can see every now and then he is flapping his ears. So that's all to do with temperature. He's trying to just cool himself down and make sure that in this autumn sun, that he keeps himself nice and cool. So as he flaps, he's pulling wind over his ears. So Maddie, you're wondering how the trunk is so flexible. Well, Maddie, there's no bones inside there. It's all muscles. And their trunk has more muscles than your entire body has. So they are able to move it in every direction because there's muscles attached around, along, and that means that they can move it up and down, they can twist it, and because there's no bones, it means that they don't have a solid structure inside there to have to worry about. It can just move in any way at once. It's imagine if you had to take the bones out of your arms, your arm would go all floppy, much like the trunk would, and that's how it's able to move as much as it can. Now I'm hoping he's going to turn around and he shows us his trunk again, because he's now put his trunk behind the tree, and we can just see how well he can use it. seems to have stopped now. Now, there was some snorting behind us, and that's because there are some hippos here as well. We're on the edge of a dam, and so our hippos are in the water over that area. There we go. You can see there's one just poking its head out. Now, I think there's about 4 of them in this particular water hole, and it's a male with females. There we go. There's another one's popped its nose up, and so you see they not spending too much time above water because we're here and we're talking. Then they like to go under and just stay under. It's still quite warm now, and they'll be waiting until it gets a little bit cooler before they decide to come out and start eating grass. And there's another one that's just popped its head up. Hello, guys. And so the snorting that we're hearing is when they've gone underwater, they've been holding their breath, and so as they come up, they're then trying to blow a bit of the water out of their nostrils that is gathered on top so that they don't breathe water in. Now, Charlie, you're wondering if these hippos and the elephant are related in any way. Well, no, they are not. They are mammals, so they are in the same sort of taxonomical breakdown, but they are not related. You'll find that elephants are closely related to an animal called a hyrax, which has got a similar foot structure to what the elephant does, as well as other anatomical structures, whereas the hippo, they reckon, it's a bit of a debate about the hippos as to whether they're more closely related to pigs or whales. So they're busy trying to work it out in science and follow their sort of genetics way back and see which ones are closer. But the elephant and the hippo are not very closely related at all. Now, unfortunately, that's all we've had time for with you guys. I hope you've had a wonderful time with all of us. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you guys along, and I hope you have a wonderful day at school and that you go and play lots of sport this afternoon and enjoy your time at home and do all your homework, and we'll see you all next time.
And so we continue on with the Sunset Safari, now that the schools, or the kids from the schools, have had to go back to their regular classes, which I imagine must be a very difficult thing to do indeed if you've just been on a live safari. Either way, they've had to carry on, and so do we. We continue on with our regular drive, which means for all of our regular viewers, send through your questions on #SafariLive on Twitter. And just a quick reintroduction for those of you that have just jumped on board. My name is Jamie, and this afternoon, Sebastian is on camera with me, and true to form as the new Elephant Whisperer title holder, Whisperer, not Elephant Whisperer, Elephant Whisperer. Wherever Seb is, he attracts elephants, and we walked into one earlier. Unfortunately, I'm not sure. I think that elephant got a bigger fright than we did, and he ran away into the dense vegetation, so we've decided not to follow him. Kickstart your brains, since we've only been taking school kids' questions. This is a track quiz. I don't know why I'm in the mood for track quizzes at the moment. This is a track quiz that I've been dying to ask you, and I haven't really had a good opportunity. What walked in the road? This is its track over here. This is a track over here. There's something very, very, very characteristic about it. For our new viewers, please don't worry. We all do these quizzes with some of our longer viewers? You know what I mean. Viewers have been watching for longer in mind, just because they have really pretty much mastered all the other aspects of life out here. Important are these distinctions here. So please don't stress for our new viewers if you can't get this immediately. Some of our viewers have been watching for years. Some of them have got tracking scrapbooks. A lot, they really have learned a great deal. So I don't expect our new viewers to know this one. If you are a new viewer and you get it, well, bravo. You can send through your answers to that on #SafariLive on Twitter. What walked? And yeah, walked. He was walking. It was walking. I don't know if it was a he or a she. It was walking when it left these tracks. It's a tricky one. I wonder if there's any further evidence. Adele, you want to know if that was ostrich? Definitely not. Let me show you what an ostrich track looks like. Sorry, I was just trying to think how much of the answer I was going to give away, but I'm not going to. An ostrich track has 2 toes, and it would be roughly this big. That would be the size of an ostrich track. So our track, which looks a little bit... no, I'm not going to draw it because it'll give it away. Ooh, You guys are on form this afternoon. I'm not, clearly. George, you say ground hornbill. Ground hornbill track is quite a lot larger. However, you are very much in the correct ballpark, and I think that kind of gives it away. A ground hornbill track is around about this big. So that is the size of a ground hornbill track. Okay, that is slightly larger. Either way, it is definitely not the size of this track, which is about the length of my finger. And there's the other track over there. And you don't usually see the tracks separated like this. You actually usually see them. No, I'm not telling you anymore. Otherwise I'm going to give it away. I think George is he's come very close. It is not a ground hornbill, but there is a very distinctive feature of this particular family. Kestrel, you want to know if it's a monitor lizard. It's not a monitor lizard, and I'll tell you the difference with a monitor lizard. Today we're doing Pictionary. I'm not very good at Pictionary. A monitor lizard always has the mark of the tail in between, and then you get the sort of the clawed feet on either side. Oh, that went a bit awry. I got distracted there. So you kind of get the feet that show through on either side of the track, but you will get the mark of the tail. Obviously it doesn't look quite so defined, but you do. And actually you might get lucky in that either James or Tristan might show you exactly what it looks like. Right, apparently my track quiz was not nearly as hard as I thought it was. Kirk, bravo. It is absolutely a southern yellow-billed hornbill. Okay, admittedly, it could also be a red-billed hornbill. I would say from the size, it's probably a yellow-billed, but very well done. It is a hornbill, one of the smaller hornbilled species. The giveaway is the shape of the foot that looks kind of like, I was always told it looks like a banana. They kind of curve like that, inwards facing. That was what I was always taught, with the back toe quite a lot longer, and the two outside toes that are fused together. And it was obviously out here looking for insects, much like James, who's not just looking for insects, but basically for anything with a heartbeat.
I am looking for something with a heartbeat, live. Sorry. My name is James Henry. Wait, let me... Normally they have to strap me, you see. But they're not doing that this time. Hashtag Safari Live. Oh, there we go. Hashtag Safari Live is how you get hold of us. We have finished our school drive now, and this is not ever to be referred to as the adult drive, because of course that has connotations inappropriate to Safari Live. Good. Now, we found a yellow-billed hornbill, which would have been such beautiful what we call connective tissue between Jamie's segment and ours. Unfortunately, it flew away because you took too long to figure out what the track was. You know? Never mind, I will forgive you this time. And I'm just... Lou, is our signal okay? That's absolutely astounding, completely unpredictable. We're just going to drive over this small road blockage placed there by the elephants. There we are, we've got over it. It whipped me in the leggies, everybody. It was very sore. Never mind, I'll survive. I know you're very concerned. Our plan from here, because we had the most wonderful general game time up at the Pan and with the elephants, but our plan from here is going to be to go to Chitwa and see if we can't find that male lion that was around this morning, not yesterday. And we'll see what else we can find on the way. It is the most spectacularly gorgeous afternoon. What's the matter, Fergus? You're looking a bit confused. Yellow-billed hornbill. It's flown. It's even closer. Wait. And there's another one on the tree. It's right there. Can you see it, Fergus? There is it. And now the connective loop has been closed. Whew. What a relief. Now, I suspect I know the track that Jamie was looking at. It was that strange sort of elongated one that doesn't look like a bird at all, probably. And let's see if we can't watch this thing move in a way that would have made that track. Because they don't always make that track, but when they move in one direction, then they do. They have this sort of very strange hopping gait. This one is too much of a greedy guts to do too much hopping. He's eating little grasshoppers and caterpillars. I mean, they must have had the most wonderful time of late, the hornbills. There's been so much to eat in amongst the grass, and much the same way as there's been so much for us to look at under the microscope. Basically everything that we want to look at under the microscope, this hornbill will devour with relish. Isn't that great? I can sit and watch a hornbill for hours. They've just got the most wonderful facial expressions. Come on, you're being tremendously confiding, Mr. Hornbill. He's got a friend who's sitting on the leadwood tree quite picturesquely above him. You see him there, Fergus? He's a rather splendid fellow. So splendid, I might have to break the law. There, I broke the law, everybody. Please don't tell. Oh, he's gone. Did you also break the law, Fergus?
I did. I broke the shutter law.
Oh dear. Did the law win?
Once again.
Once again. Let's pop down to Twin Dams here and see if there's anything there. There is a hippopotamus that's come back here. And there, Fergus, is a pig. Do you see it? Fergus, of course, is now performing great feats of athleticism as I point at things left and right of the vehicle, hither and yon, up and down. He's getting a full body workout.
Skipped workout for the last couple of days.
That's exactly correct, because you skipped workout for the last few days. This pig looks to be less than enthused about his meal. Fergus? Right there. Felt for a little bit there like I was on the deck of a fairly rickety sailing ship.
Oh, I feel when I go on drive these days.
That is fair enough. Fortunately, I'd love to tell you that wasn't, that you were being prejudiced, but you certainly wouldn't be the first to have said that. There's a whole sounder of them now just through here. That we have signal for you in this area absolutely blows my mind. There they all go. Jason, you want to know if a yellow-billed hornbill can mate with the ground hornbill. Even less than Romeo and Juliet could be lovers, so is the likelihood of a ground hornbill becoming the lover of a yellow-billed hornbill. They are completely different species. They are not just sort of different types of the same thing. They're not different subspecies. They're completely different genera even. So although the yellow-billed hornbill is closely related to a yellow-billed hornbill is closely related to red-billed hornbill and a grey hornbill, and possibly slightly further related from a crowned hornbill and that sort of thing. They're even further away from a ground hornbill, which is a totally different genus. They really are not closely related at all. So even a yellow-billed and a yellow-billed and a red-billed, I can never get red and yellow straight in my mind. Even a yellow-billed and a red-billed cannot breed together. Although they come from the same genus, they are not closely related enough to breed. So they're even further or more distantly related than, say, a horse is from a donkey, or a lion is from a tiger. They're further related from that, and a ground hornbill could be considered sort of similarly related, or as similarly related as a lion is, say, to a house cat. They couldn't interbreed completely at all. I hope that sort of gives you an idea. Same family. Are they from the same family? They might even be a different family. Let me just quickly check that for you. I think they're the same family, though. I'm going to look in my book because that's more easy. But they are totally different genera, and so they would have had a common ancestor many, many millions of years ago. Let me look in my marvellous book, which my mummy bought for me when I started guiding as a young buck 17 years ago. Louise, yes, it is very cute, as you say. I still haven't worked out how to use it properly. H for Hornbill. There we are, page 278. Good. There we are. So, there is the family, Bucerotidae, and the yellow-billed and red-billed are in the same genus, as is the Damara, but that's very unusual, and the crowned. The crowned is in the same genus, and the grey hornbill, and the Monteros, and the Bradfields, but not the sort of these, what I like to think of as the Asian hornbills almost. They look like the Asian species, the silvery-cheeked hornbill, trumpeter hornbills. The ground hornbill is in the same family, but a completely different genus. That's interesting, so it is in the same family. All right, we got that figured out. Marvellous. Tula-Ann, a very, very good question you ask. Why are those pigs' tails not curly? Why are they straight up and skinny? Well, the reason for that, Tula-Ann, is because they don't use them in the same way that a domestic pig with a curly tail uses its tail. You know, pigs don't have as curly tails as you think they do. I don't know how many domestic pigs you've seen. They're just a little bit curly. They're not as curly as we think, as they're depicted in picture books. But a warthog uses that long, thin tail for a very specific reason. They use them when they're running through the bush, through the tall grass. They stick that tail up, and that helps them to follow each other. And they know where each other are as they run. And so that's very important for them, which of course a domestic pig does not have to do anymore. And so they don't need that long tail, which sticks up like a beacon or an aerial. There's another pig there. But let's look at the hippopotamus. There we are. Hello, hippopotamus. Now, this hippopotamus has given me the most wonderful display recently. It burst up out of the water, and it made a loud sort of snorting noise and splashed water all over the place. But unfortunately today it is not doing that. Here it is just sitting, lurking as it were, on the bottom of this dam. I don't think I want to spend too much time here. I want to head down to Chitwa Jam, and while I head down towards Chitwa, let us head across to Tristane, who has managed to find himself some members of the order Proboscidae.
Well, surprise, surprise, more elephants. As you can see, a whole lot of them, and all of them. Isn't that cute? They all got their trunks on one another as they follow behind Mom. Hello, everybody. It's amazing how many elephants we've seen. Now, I actually just came to an epiphany as to why we've been seeing so many elephants. I have a theory. It's because the torchwood trees are currently fruiting. I didn't even think about it in the last few days, but sitting with that bull elephant around Buffelshoek Dam and watching him feed so zealously off those torchwoods, I would imagine that's why they're up here. This area's got quite a high density of torchwoods, particularly this eastern part. So Djuma, Chitwa, in Koro, quite a few torchwoods grow in these areas, and so that's probably why they're coming here. And in fact, this herd is actually going straight towards a torchwood tree that's behind us that I was just thinking about they might go to if there was elephants around, because the grass has already been flattened in that area. So what I might do is once the herd is passed, I'll turn and try go to that torchwood, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's where they end up. But you can see, look at how clever Mom is. She is moving that tree, and the little babies are all learning that they can move a branch and there'll be food underneath. Now, unfortunately, this one is blocking the way at this stage, but hopefully we'll see it in a little bit. Behind all of those elephants is a mom teaching her little ones how to feed. Isn't this just amazing? Once again, we have been just completely enveloped by elephants this afternoon. It's such a special feeling to have them all around you, and just to listen to them going about their business is so nice. And I can actually see quite a few more that are coming out of the drainage line, so it looks like quite a big herd. Now, the infamous drainage line seems to be at least providing one of its mysteries today. Generally, the drainage lines are places where everything disappears to, but today it seems that things are coming out of the drainage line, which is great for us. Now, I'm going to just turn around because I'm pretty sure they are on their way towards that torchwood tree. The rest of them are still down at the bottom, and I'm sure it's just the young males that are down in the drainage line at the moment. They've probably come in all likelihood from Chelapan or twin dams. Those are one of the two pans that have been in this area, and you can see some of them have got sort of sand marks on their ears where they were wet and then they've sprayed sand on themselves, and that would be in all likelihood because they were digging and throwing sand from the little riverbed of the Mulawati itself. Let's see if my theory is going to be correct and they're going to go to this torchwood. Ooh, Adele, this is an interesting one. You want to know what animal is best adapted to survive in Africa. Well, other than humans, I would say... Oh, this is probably a tough one. Elephants are probably, and leopard, probably the two that are the most widely distributed in terms of habitats. Both of them seem to be able to thrive in pretty much every kind of condition you can imagine. And in fact, I think probably leopard is the number one in that, because leopards can survive in very high altitudes that elephants can't. So in terms of Kilimanjaro mountain, this is quite an interesting thing. This is the highest peak in Africa, and at the end of the day they had sort of fossil records of different species of animals. Now, there's only one animal that's ever made it to the top of Kilimanjaro, which in the ice cap, which is very interesting, and I reckon this will be a good one to throw to all of you. And without using any internet, if any of you can guess at #SafariLive which animal was found in the ice caps of the Kilimanjaro mountains. But the elephants used to be able to get just up to where ice started, and then they used to sort of succumb to that area. So elephants are very well adapted to African conditions. Unfortunately, as the numbers of people have grown, so it's become very difficult for elephants because they don't do very well around people. Elephant and human conflict is really a big problem because elephants eat so much, and they're very destructive of where they walk, and so anywhere where you've got crops or farms and people, it ends up being a really bad thing. So in terms of actually surviving, look at that one's got a face plant in the bush. What are you doing? This elephant has obviously found something underneath that bush that it wants to get to, but it almost just kind of shoved its head into the bush as though it was a Monday morning and it was completely thoroughly over life, and it just sort of face planted straight into the edge of the road. What are you up to? Seems there's something in there that it wants. But in terms of other animals that are wild animals, I would say the leopard at the moment is probably the one that's most widely spread throughout Africa in the most types of habitat. Oh, and it's just all too much. Has it been a tough Wednesday, little one? It's just time now to have a rest. Now, it doesn't matter how many of these elephants we see, it just seems that they all give us the most incredible shows every single day. I know James has had such special sightings with the elephants the last few days. I've had amazing sightings. Jamie's had amazing sightings. So just spending time with them really is the best medicine. And it doesn't matter how bad a mood you're in. If you had to just spend sort of an hour or two with the elephants, you end up feeling much happier about life. That's for sure. Now you can see the big females are starting to come into the road, and they're walking straight to where that torchwood tree is. The torchwood tree is just in the distance off to the left there. You can just see it kind of poking up, so just a little bit left there, Craig. It's difficult to make out, but there it is, that one that's just cutting the horizon on the left-hand side of the frame. So that's where we're off to, and they're slowly making their way there. If the little ones can get past this bush that is fascinating them. Now, do we have any answers for which animal was found at the highest point on Kilimanjaro? So, Cordelia, you're wondering what is must and what is its purpose. Well, must is basically a condition that male elephants go into, where they go into an increased level of testosterone, and that is the time that they will actively search out females to mate with. Alright, so it's basically a male's kind of estrous cycle, if you want to call it that. It's when he goes into a heightened level of testosterone, and he begins to then produce so much testosterone that it starts to dribble from his penis, and he ends up with this foul smell coming out, and there's dribbling from his temporal glands, which is an indication of emotion, and that's because he's now riled up by this testosterone, and he's now searching, and he's wanting to find females to mate with, and so that's what it is. Yes, what do you want, little one? I know you. We had you this morning. You were being naughty this morning too. So, Barbara, you're saying, was it the woolly mammoth? So we're not talking about very old animals, we're talking about modern animals that we see today. So any particular animal that you could find in Africa at the current moment, so not animals that have gone extinct, but animals that are currently alive. Now, if anybody gets this, I'll be quite impressed, without using the internet, because if you Google it, it will come up, but without using the internet, if somebody can tell me, I would be quite impressed with it. Right, so Vulpine, Wolfgirl, Cindy, Aaron, and lots of more of you have all said leopard. Well, leopard was the second highest. So leopard, I can't remember the exact feet that it was found at, but there was a leopard remain that was found. But the actual animal that is found higher than all of the others was 3 wild dogs. Can you believe it? So 3 wild dogs managed to make it to the summit of Kilimanjaro and down again without actually dying. The leopard seemed to have died up there, and the carcass was discovered. And unfortunately, somebody actually stole the carcass. So they wanted to go and recover that leopard carcass to do some studies on it, but unfortunately it went missing. So pretty amazing that the wild dogs were the ones to make it up there. I would never have thought, given that wild dogs are so sort of, in now sort of modern times, have become so susceptible to so many different things, that now that they're able to sort of sustain themselves at such a high altitude is pretty incredible. And it must be a testament to their sort of stamina. Being these animals that move around so fast and so quickly, it's a good testament as to how fit they actually are. Now, it seems like a slow afternoon. It's almost like that late afternoon stroll in the park that we would go for as humans. That's what it sort of feels like amongst this herd. They're just slowly ambling along, feeding as they go. It's all very, very pleasant. Alright, so we're going to stay with our Ellies and see if they don't make it towards this torchwood tree. And while we do that, I believe Jamie has found something large that she could potentially climb. That's not a tree.
It's not just potentially climb. I did climb it, and I climbed up to the top of this termite mound because I wanted to see whether or not there was any sign of the elephant that we saw briefly earlier. There's no sign of the elephant. All that's happened to me, actually, is that I've had a little bit of a trip down memory lane. And I find, since we've started working here, and I mean, I've been here for 2 years, I find that every single corner that we drive around is now filled with some kind of a memory. This termite mound and that game path is where I first saw Tsakani, the daughter of Kwetile, the one and only time I ever saw her, before she disappeared off. Over there was where Sindile had his impala kill when I came back from leave. There was where I saw Tingana. I found his tracks and I realized how fresh they were. It was one of those special moments where you go, these tracks are really fresh. Oh, there's the leopard walking along. He just finished mating with with Tundi, I think it was. And if I remember correctly, I got a fantastic Twitter comment about how I couldn't spot a cat if I fell over it. But anyway, and over there around the next corner was the Birmingham boys, all lying here with all four of them. No, it wasn't all four of them, it was three of them together. So that's a really cool thing about being in a place for a long time. You have memories, some involving leopards, some involving lions, some involving people. And I shall forever think of that termite mound now as Sebastian's, since we did stand here for the last little while, waiting patiently while Tristan was with his elephants. We were talking about, or Tristan was talking about, the animal best adapted to living in Africa. We've spoken a lot about mammals. Tristan's told you the story of the wild dogs that were found close to the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro. I'm going to say insects. Insects are the best adapted creatures at living absolutely anywhere in terms of animals. They really, really are. I mean, we all know that cockroaches are probably going to out-survive every single living species out here. There's flies. Flies are walking across the camera lens. Hey, we're busy. Go away. Maybe even spiders, like the spiders that have made this community nest. Community nest. This particular species of spider is called a community nest spider, and I actually don't think that they're inhabiting this nest anymore. I think it's... I'm just going to touch the outside gently. I think it's been abandoned. One of the few spider species that's sociable. It's not really a spider trait, is it, to be particularly sociable, unlike the termites that built the termite mound that I was standing in. No. We should see little bits of movement. A whole host, or usually a whole family of spiders lives in that particular web. They've even managed to catch... I don't feel too bad reaching in here. They've even managed to catch a grasshopper. Come here. Oh, it's a bit brittle now. That's a leg. I was trying to get the whole body out for you, but that didn't work out so well. Hold on a second, I'll delve back in. And of course, get off me! And of course, working together in a team really helps for, even though the spider's a little bit too small to take on something like this on its own. Sorry, Sam.
Okay.
Even though the spider's a little bit small to take on something like this on its own, working together in a group works very, very well. I'm going to continue on in desperate search of trying to find something that we haven't shown you before, which is, for some of you, quite a difficult process. In the meantime, let's go and see, because I've lost my words, I've lost my sentences. James is at Chitwa. I wonder what's there.
As you can see, my friend Fergus here has not lost his artistry in the same way that Jamie had lost her words. And you can see a magnificent picture there of reflection. And of course it just parallels our own sense of reflection as we sit next to the water, reflecting. Fergus, on what do you reflect this afternoon?
Weaver's nests.
Weaver's nests. Well, that is fantastic. It is a weaver's nest. It is the red-billed buffalo weaver's nest. That is above what we're looking at, of course, on the screen.
But it was reflecting.
But it was reflecting. It was reflecting indeed. Good. Sorry, I apologize for my slowness there. Now we can go back to the hippopotami. Wonderful hippopotami here at possibly the most peaceful scene of the day, and there have been a lot of good ones. As we pan off to the left, we can see a very large elephant bull that seems to be not particularly enthusiastically making his way across the clearing. He seems to be, I don't know what he's doing. He's finding one or two things to fossek at in the grass there, but otherwise he's just kind of swinging his trunk about and enjoying the fact that he's alive on a glorious Lowveld afternoon. In the background, the very unmelodic sound of the Egyptian geese. And then I think that I wonder if this is not the same bull that Tristan had today at Cheetah Plains. Or was it here? Were you with Tristan this morning?
No,
You were with pajamas.
pajamas.
He just described a very large elephant bull with fairly short but thick-tusked elephant, but apparently not this one. And then to the left of him we have a whole lot of beautiful Waterbuck. Sorry, I got stuck there because I just must tell you that Hosanna is on Little Gari, as I think we told you this morning, but he's also got himself an impala kill. So the murderous little fellow has managed to catch himself something to eat. So that is really good news. For those of you who are new viewers, perhaps Hosanna, one of our favourite leopards, approaching 16 months old now, semi-abandoned by his mother, not on purpose. She has disappeared. We don't really know where she's gone or why she's gone. And we were a bit worried about him to start with, but he's now killing regularly for himself, and Little Gari, unfortunately, is just to the south of where we're allowed to go, but he is allowed to go where he pleases. He has not managed to kill the Waterbuck yet, which I suppose is very excellent news indeed for the Waterbuck. Well, those little ones there would be, well, not a bad size for him. I'm struggling to hear the name here. Is it Ludmila? Mm-hmm. Ludmila? You want to know about whether or not hippopotami ever come out of the water and if it's dangerous to approach them on foot. It is on two scores, Ludmila. I mean, mostly because they come out of the water at night, and you really don't want to be walking around on foot at night. It is a dangerous thing to do. But secondly, because yes, even in broad daylight, to approach a hippopotamus on foot would be verging on suicidal. They are extremely easily threatened, and that means that if you get between them and their water, or they feel like you are threatening them in any way, they will charge, and they won't turn around if you start clapping and shouting wildly. You climb a tree or fire a rifle at them in order to stop them. And so yes, it would be very dangerous to approach hippo on foot. I've taken walks where we found hippo on foot, and we've always just backed away immediately. You don't view hippo on foot unless you're on a dam wall like we're on now, and then you can look at hippo. And I've told the story before, but there's it's got a happy ending, but it's a dreadfully traumatic story of a ranger or guide at Londolozi. Look, this fish eagle's flying there, Fergus. I don't know if it's going to try and... No, it's not going to try and catch things. It's just going to... She and her tracker were walking. She's about Jamie's sort of size, so a slight girl, about as fearless as Jamie too. Maybe not quite as fearless, but almost. And walking with her tracker, she was carrying the rifle, tracker was following the tracks, and neither of them were looking up. And a hippo, they were walking, it was late in the morning, so they didn't expect hippo to be out of the water. They walked past a hippo path, and they got between the hippo and his pan, the pan that he had been living in, and he charged. And he grabbed her by the top of her arm, and she dropped the rifle immediately. Obviously, she didn't even have time to turn and see what had come to get her. And it dragged her back towards the water where she was going. The tracker picked up the rifle, chased the hippo, and beat the hippo off with the butt end of the rifle. The hippo dropped her and jumped into the water. And it had detached... It had stuck, you've all seen their canines, those huge canines they've got. It had detached the bicep from the bone. And, like I say, she's not a substantial woman. And so it was very lucky that it didn't snap the bone completely. And I think it just got its tooth between the bicep and the bone. And thankfully, close by, on her vehicle, her guests were two trauma nurses. And so they leapt out of the car at great sort of risk to their own personal safety, and ran along and helped her up and got her into the car to safety, and they, performed the necessary first aid, and she's back guiding now. Obviously, she's got a small spot on her arm, but it just goes to show that hippopotami are not to be approached on foot or taken lightly in any shape, way, or form. They're not very chivalrous.
They don't care whether they go for ladies or for men. And indeed, you'll probably find the worst, because they're the ones off. Yeah, we're still fairly patriarchal here in Africa. They're the ones who go to water by the water and who do the water.
Well, we're still trying to find our elephants that unfortunately have gone into this disaster zone that we have in front of us. This is the thickets that they've gone into, and unfortunately we're not going to be able to follow them. I was hoping they were going to come to this beautiful big torchwood that you see on my right hand side here. This is the tree that I was referring to, but they've just bypassed it slightly and are just on our eastern side here. So unfortunately for us, they didn't come where I wanted them to come, and it would have been quite pretty. Although I'm sure there are a few birds at the top of the tree there, a few starlings that will be quite thankful for that. You can see there's some glossy starlings on top there. I can't see if it's a greater blue-eared or... oh, it's not. It's a Burchell starling. Sorry, naughty me. I thought that they were glossy starlings, but you can see they've got the dark eye there and the longer tail, so that makes it a Burchell starling. And they'll be thankful because sometimes the elephants come and they shake this tree like we saw with the bull earlier, and all the birds have to fly out of it and it becomes a bit of a mess. So luckily for them, they're able to take it nice and easy and take a nice rest. Right, Craig, onward and forward we go. It's not like we haven't had a good dose of elephants in the last few days anyway, so it's not the biggest train smash that they've gone into thick bush. Ultimately, we have seen quite a lot of them, and they gave us a great view to start with anyway. We had them all on the road, and that baby sitting down on the side of the road was very funny. Also, his head plant into the bush also made me laugh a little bit, so at least that was good. Now, I think the rest of the afternoon, I'm going to go and try and see if I can't check around Treehouse Dam in case there's any sign of those royals. I've checked around this area because we're on sort of the eastern side of the Mulawati for that male leopard that was calling this morning, but so far no luck. I haven't seen any tracks for him yet, so I'm going to go more towards Treehouse, and then when it gets a little bit cooler around sunset, I think it's going to be the perfect time to go and check for Ribbon and the cubs. And this morning I did find quite fresh tracks for them. That was from this morning, so that's where I'm going to head to. Now, while we sort of meander our way along and enjoy this late afternoon light, let's go across to Jamie, who has something that maybe is not as enjoyable.
I think she's beautifully enjoyable, but perhaps that's just me, perhaps I'm biased. But I think especially in this afternoon light, and actually your perspective's probably slightly different to mine, but this is a garden orb spider, and I think all orb spiders are really very pretty. As it happens, I actually think her companions in the web are even prettier, but you can't see it as clearly from Seb's angle just because he's on the eastern side and I'm on the western side. But there are a whole load of kleptoparasitic dewdrop spiders. I think it's going to be very hard for Seb to get. Can you see that one there, Seb? Shall I try guide you in? Over there. And from my angle, they are glowing silver in the afternoon light, like a little drop of mercury. Got it? Yeah. Of course, it doesn't look quite the same from that angle. Brave little spiders, to be perched on the web of a giant and to steal from her, because that is what they do. They are kleptoparasites. And it's actually fascinating to witness the relationship between the kleptoparasitic spiders and the garden orbs or the golden orbs, any of the big spiders that make catchment webs in the way that they do. And this web has got, I've just done a quick count, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 kleptoparasites interested, 5, 6, sorry. There's 6 kleptoparasites interested in stealing this spider's food. And yet, of course, they've got to do it so very carefully. 7, sorry, found another one. They've got to do it so very carefully because, of course, she's not that slow, and she's a pretty big spider, and she could actually catch them and eat them herself. She's beautiful. Garden orbs, the big identifying feature for those of you that are learning about our different spiders. I know they creep you out. It's just one of those things. The garden orb's identifying feature is her serrated abdomen. She's almost got a shield on her abdomen, and I can only assume that that is more for display purposes than anything else, because I can't quite work out exactly what purpose it has. Maybe some of you do know why she has that shield on her abdomen. I would say display, to make her perhaps look more intimidating than she is, because of course they're not venomous. They're not venomous spiders. They're terrifying looking, but they're not venomous. And it's really her powerful jaws and her powerful, very, very strong web that are the secrets to her success. But actually she's not, despite her bright colors, an example of mimicry in nature. Now, Shamama, you want to know how many eyes does an orb spider have? I don't know exactly off the top of my head. Multiple eyes, as most spiders do, but I'm not sure exactly how many she will have in there. I would find it very difficult. Perhaps we should find one, a deceased one, and put it under the microscope in the tent. And that can be something for James to look at, or any one of us actually, to sit and have a look at exactly how many eyes an orb spider has. Those of you with Google at your fingertips would be able to show me or tell me, I would imagine, very, very quickly. But it might be something quite interesting. However we might describe this particular spider, I don't think cute is a word that we would use. However, James has got something that would fit that description.